So, have you ever wondered what actually makes a haunting tick? Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different and honestly, pretty chilling. We're going to break down the actual mechanics of a haunting. No cheap jump scares here, just a deep dive into two very real, very distinct, supernatural case studies to figure out the how and the why behind them. Let's get right into it. Think of this as our table of contents for a ghost story anthology. We'll be looking at two specific tales of terror today. First up, we've got a graveyard shortcut, a ghostly obsession, and a holy exorcism. And after that, we'll shift gears to look at a burning wedding dress, a betrayal revealed, and the final pacification. All right, part one, the graveyard shortcut. So meet Kritika. She's a young student who, like a lot of us, just wanted to save some commute time. Her daily shortcut? A local graveyard. Usually, it's a completely mundane, quiet walk. But one day, she notices a fresh grave belonging to a young guy named James. Feeling kind of sorry for him, she casually drops a joke. She literally says out loud, "If I were your girlfriend, I'd be sad. I would make you my boyfriend for life." She even wished for him to find love and freedom in the afterlife. It was completely innocent. But here's the crazy thing about the supernatural framework we're looking at today. Those throwaway words, they accidentally served as an open invitation. Which leads us straight into Section 2, James's ghostly obsession. Almost instantly, things take a very dark turn. Kritika starts having these incredibly vivid, terrifying nightmares. And then the phone calls start. Deeply unsettling, unexplainable audio. At first, her parents just brush it off. They figure, oh, it's just exam stress, she's overworked. But the calls keep coming. And it brings up one massive, terrifying question. Who on earth was calling Kritika? Well, eventually, the voice on the other end speaks up clearly. And what it says is absolutely blood-curdling. You are mine, Kritika. I will stay with you forever. Yeah, it was James, the boy from the fresh grave. He took her flippant little joke as a literal binding contract. He told her he'd been looking for love, and he finally found it with her after he died. And he made a promise. If she tried to reject him, he was going to take her into the afterlife with him, permanently. Now, you might be wondering, why was James so incredibly aggressive and possessive? Well, his history tells us exactly why. It turns out James was this really rebellious youth who actually died fleeing the scene of an accident right after harassing a girl. So that aggressive, won't take no for an answer personality, it translated directly into his afterlife persona. He wasn't just a lost soul, he was a stubborn, possessive, and genuinely dangerous spirit. So, how do you handle something like that? Let's look at Section 3, the holy exorcism. Kritika's family realizes they are way out of their depth, so they call in a specialist, Father Evans. And the moment he arrives, he sees this deeply entrenched supernatural attachment. But before he does anything, he introduces this absolutely crucial psychological principle. It's called the rule of fear. Basically, spirits like James literally feed on terror. Kritika, being paralyzed by fear, that was the exact fuel giving James his power over her. It's a universal rule in this context. What you fear will chase you. But the second you turn around and face it, it loses its grip. So to banish him, Kritika couldn't just be a bystander. She had to actively conquer her own terror. The exorcism itself was not some gentle cleansing. It was a highly aggressive, procedural event. Father Evans starts by anointing Kritika with holy oil from head to toe to establish divine authority. Then he actively demands the spirit reveal itself. And here's where the rule of fear comes into play. Kritika herself had to aggressively verbally reject the ghost. She had to scream, "I hate you, James," to shatter that perceived bond. Finally, Father Evans uses the holy word, describing it as a consuming fire, to completely destroy the entity's hold on her. And it worked. Okay, take a breath. Let's shift gears to our second case. Section 4, the burning wedding dress. This case gives us a completely different type of entity. We have a newlywed named Farhana, who moves into her husband Rizwan's home. But she quickly realizes she is not alone. There's a violently physical presence already living there. The craziest part happens while she's just trying to get some rest. Her bridal lehenga, her literal wedding dress, spontaneously combusts right in front of her. Think about that for a second. How does a wedding dress just catch fire with absolutely no flame, no lantern, no incense in the room? It's physically impossible. This was a targeted event, meant to send a crystal clear message of absolute hatred toward this marriage. And things escalated fast. Farhana started having fainting spells in the bedroom, followed by sudden, intense physical pain. But the biggest clue was what she was seeing. Farhana kept seeing the spirit of a woman wearing traditional Hindu symbols, specifically sindoor and a bindi, but they were living in a Muslim household. That specific cultural clash wasn't random. It was a massive hint that this wasn't some wandering ghost. This entity was deeply connected to Rizwan's past.
Let's uncover exactly what that means in Section 5, a betrayal revealed.
So the haunting essentially forces Rizwan's darkest secret out into the open. The spirit? It was Megha, his first wife. To understand why she's so furious, we have to look at the timeline of her betrayal. They married for love, but Megha refused to convert religions, which caused a massive rift with the family. Months later, Rizwan just abandons her to go work overseas. When they finally reunite a year later, it's a bitter argument, and Rizwan cruelly dismisses her. He actually tells her to just die if she wants to. Tragically, she did. She took her own life. And because of the religious conflict, graveyards refused her body. So Rizwan's family secretly buried her in a forest, completely denying her any proper religious rights.
During that final, bitter argument, Megha made one last chilling promise to him. I will make your life so miserable that you will regret it forever. And that right there? That is the karmic engine behind this entire haunting. She's not just lashing out randomly. She is a deeply betrayed, vengeful spouse executing retribution. She attacked the bridal dress because she was attacking the symbol of a new marriage, a dignity and respect she felt she was denied in life, just as she was denied proper rights in death.
So how do you resolve a situation like that? Let's go to Section 6, the final pacification.
See, because Megha's unrest came from legitimate spiritual debts, she couldn't just be aggressively exorcised like James. Rizwan had to actually seek out a spiritual guru to perform the Narayan Bali Puja. It's a highly specialized Hindu rite meant specifically for unnatural deaths, and it was incredibly intense. Conducted in the dead of night, Rizwan had to actively resist Megha's spiritual illusions. She was literally appearing to him, begging him to stop. But he had to stay focused, push through, and offer her ashes into the sacred fire, finally granting her the peace that he had denied her in life.
When you compare these two cases side by side, it's absolutely fascinating. The nature of the ghost completely dictates how you get rid of it. In our first story, James was predatory and stubborn, so it required a combative exorcism. They had to use aggressive divine authority to literally break the grip of fear. But in our second story, Megha was a betrayed victim. She didn't need to be fought, she needed karmic release, a pacifying ritual to fulfill those denied spiritual debts. Which really brings us to a profound takeaway to wrap up this explainer. Whether it's just a flippant joke spoken to aggrieve, or a cruel dismissal of someone who loved you, our actions have permanence. They ripple out, sometimes even beyond the physical world. So it leaves you wondering, if our actions in life can actually bind a soul after death, what debts are you leaving unpaid? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.